Hi, we're going to talk about Python functions and how you can have a variable number of arguments. So far we've talked about functions, and you can call the function with the function name, and you define the function with a DEF for defining, and then the name of the function, and then the body of your function is indented. Well, we often want to pass something into the function, a number or a string or a variable, and what we pass in is the argument to the function. So if I'm calling my function with 1, I'm passing in the number 1, and that will be copied into this variable right here, numbers. Well, notice that I've got a star in front of this variable name. In Python, that will allow us to have a variable number of arguments. And the way Python will handle that is it turns whatever you pass in into a tuple. And remember, tuples are like lists, only they're immutable. So it's more than one item or as many items as you need, but you can't change them once you read them in. So if I call my function with, let me save my file. That happens to me all the time. So I'll save my file and try again and call the function with one input argument. And I put a print line up here to print the type of numbers because I said that it turned it into a tuple, and I just wanted to prove to you, yeah, we did turn that into a tuple, even though I just passed in one item. And a one item tuple looks like this. We've got the item and then the comma. And then I've got a little for loop that will go through each item in the tuple. In this case, there's just one, and go ahead and print that item. So we can call our function with, let's try it, with 4 input arguments. And they get passed into the function, and numbers is a tuple of 4 this time. And we go through that for loop 4 times and print all of the items in that tuple. And we can call the function with 3 input arguments. We could even call the function with absolutely nothing, and then we've got an empty tuple. So that was the first topic I wanted to cover. The next topic is recursive functions. And a recursive function is a function that calls itself. And normally when I see students create recursive functions, it's bad news, and it ends up causing an infinite loop. Because in this case, if I call this function, we'll go inside the function, we'll print a line, and then I've got a line here with the same name of the function that I'm actually in already. So I'll call the function again and print the line and call the function again. And this, the way this is written, is never ever going to end. So we're going to get an infinite loop. And this is not good. We're going to need to hit Control-C to stop that. So now my screen's a big mess, so I'm going to use this trick to print a bunch of blank lines and get my screen less messy. Okay, so this is not a good use of a recursive function, but there are a few, not that many that are easy to talk about in a short YouTube video, but there are a few examples where you actually could use a recursive function to solve a real life problem. And this is one of the few examples that I could think of, and that's a factorial function. So if I were to do a factorial of a certain number, one way to solve the problem would be I could break it down. So if I want to calculate the factorial of 3, well, in my function I'm passing in 3, and if this number n is equal to 1, but it's not, so I'll go into the else condition, and I'm going to return 3 times, and here I'm recursively calling the function, so I've got the same function that I'm already in, only I'm passing, the next time I call it, I'm just going to pass in the number 2. And when I go through with the number 2, that's not equal to 1, so I go down into the else again, and I pass, I do the multiplication 2 times, and then what is it 2 times? Well, I'll call factorial yet again, only right now n is 2. When I subtract 1, then it's calling factorial of 1. I go back into this function again, and I'm going to say, well, n's 1 this time, so I'm going to stop this recursive nonsense, and I'm going to be done. And so in the end, what happens is the first time through, you're going to end up getting something 3 times, and then you call factorial of 2, and when you call factorial of 2, you'll end up getting 2 times, and then you'll call factorial of 1, and when you call factorial of 1, you're going to get 1. So what you end up doing is multiplying 3 times 2 times 1, and you get your correct answer of 6. And because there is a value returned from factorial, then the correct way to call this function would be to save your result in a variable, so you can see that 6, or to print the result. Otherwise, you're just calculating the result and you're not actually able to use it later on. So I like the saving it into a variable option, this one. And then you could use x as many times as you want. You could pass x into another function. That's an example of a recursive function.